Hello, welcome to another dyno video and yet another CITROEN BX. I am at the moment on a quest to dyno every single type of CITROEN BX that I can get my hands on the rolling road. I wasn't until I started this video, but I've just decided I am. This is a BX14RE. Now, you're going to be watching this, if you've watched this channel before, and you'll be like, Rich, hang on. I think you'll find you've done a BX14RE before. Yes, I have. But this is a different BX14RE, and not just because it's beige, the engine is different. If there is a very strong part of you that is urging me to get on with it and stop talking, well, you can skip. There are chapters along the bottom. If you just want to see the numbers and noise and nothing else, use those. But if you're here for the ride, if you're here for the chat and for the looking around it and watching me get things wrong, well, hang around. It's not that long. You know what I mean? Everyone's got such a short attention span these days, haven't they, you know? This particular BX14RE is owned by channel member Callum, otherwise known as... He's got a YouTube channel, hang on.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Gray the Floydian Circle. Beautiful British name. That's his YouTube channel, and this is his car. Now, if you want to see any footage of his work on this car, you can do on his channel. He's been documenting getting it on the road and getting it to Rustival. I think this was in the lineup. I should know. I filmed it, didn't I? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in my Rustival walk-around video. This was in a lineup with some other BXs, some other BX Mark 1s. Now, this car has been in and around the internet for a long time. If you've been on AutoShite at any point in the last... Since its inception, you probably recognise this one. It's been passed around so many different people and no one seems to be able to do anything with it. Well, Callum has come in and he's made it happen. He almost nearly got the idle speed right on it as well, but it was 1500 RPM. I've sorted that out for him. You're welcome, Callum. So, yeah, the BX14RE, take two, but this is a different BX14RE. Why? I will show you. Now, obviously, we know this is a Mark 1 BX with the little indicators and the pointy bumpers and everything and all the funny switch gear and the roller can speedo and all the funny stuff that entails, but that's not what this is about. This is about that. That is a suitcase engine. Now, I've been hitting Wikipedia hard today and I've discovered something. I've learned something. I'm 42 years old. I did not know that the suitcase engine was called the suitcase engine because of the way it's constructed. I thought it was because it laid flat in the engine bay, but it isn't. It's because when you split it from the transmission casing, it opens up like a suitcase. Apparently, I don't know. I've never done it and probably never will. This engine is often known as, or according to Wikipedia, often incorrectly known as the UPnDOWN engine. Now, that is a confusing situation. This is an X series engine. They also made, or when I say they, I mean Peugeot, Talbot, Renault at some points, Citroen, PSA, whatever. They made the J series engine, which was a 2 litre and a 2.2. That was known as the UPnDOWN engine. The engine was built in the UPnDOWN factory, as was this one. But this isn't known as a UPnDOWN engine. This is known as a suitcase engine because of the way it's assembled, as I say, and it is a bit of an odd engine if you look at it. So the first thing you might notice about this engine is that for a front-wheel drive transversely mounted engine, in a European car especially, it is dead central. It's smack bang in the middle. Normally with engines and front-wheel drive cars like this, the engine's off to one side, it's normally on the right, and the transmission is normally on the left. Now, I am hypothesizing here, but I'm going to assume that's because most cars are left-hand drive, and they thought, well, let's offset the weight of the driver by having the engine on the right. I'm guessing. I don't know, maybe for packaging or something like that. Other cars like Hondas, some Japanese cars, it's the other way around. The engine's on the left and the gearbox on the right because, of course, they are, at heart, right-hand drive cars. This one, smack bang in the middle, which is really good. The reason it's really good is centre line. All the weight is in the centre, and because the engine sits very low. I mean, if I get down to sort of... This is, what height is this relative? This is the pocket on my hoodie. Now waist height. I know I'm short. That's above knee height. You can't see the engine anymore. All the mass, if you like, the heaviest part of that engine is about here. And it's dead central. Now, I've not driven one of these before, but It's a shame they can't have power steering. You can't get these ones with power steering, because if it had the quicker rack in it, that would actually probably be one of the best handling BXs you can get. So the engine in this car is the Peugeot X series. It was also used in Renaults for a small time. Peugeot, Citroen, Renault and Talbot used this engine. It is, as I say, X series. XY is the 1400, and I believe this one, now you're going to have to point me out if I'm wrong here, I believe this one is an XY6B, because it has a single twin choke carb, meaning the engine's rated at 71 horsepower. This is a 1400 14RE 1360cc engine, all aluminium, as we can see. We can see the alloy block there, which is full of oil, because the oil filter fell off it, because he fitted the wrong oil filter to it, and he assumed it was a metric thread, and amazingly, it has an imperial thread on a French engine. This engine wasn't even designed or built by PSA or Renault specifically. I've forgotten the name of the company now, but I'll put them on the screen here. And yeah, the company that made it for sort of multiple manufacturers. It was a really highly sort of, an engine that was produced in big numbers, shall we say. All aluminium. The bottom, you don't even know what engine you're looking at, do you? So the bottom of the engine is here. So this is the crankcase end here. That is effectively the sump, only it doesn't have a sump because obviously the sump's underneath. The cylinder head's at this end, so the rocker cover, and there's the spark plugs there. Now, you might look at some of the ribbing on that block and think, well, it looks really similar to a TU3 or a TU1. And you'd be right. I don't know for sure, but I've read that there is a similarity between this engine and the TU that succeeded it. I wouldn't mind betting that the pistons are the same or something like that, because all the CCs of these engines correlate with the various versions of the CC and the TU engines. You get a 954cc version of this, you get a 954 TU. You get an 1124cc version of this, same with the TU. 1360cc, same with the TU. Obviously the bigger TUs came later with the iron blocks, they don't count. The only thing you don't get is there was a 1219cc version of this, and there isn't that in a TU, but there is a 1294cc. God, yeah, am I making everyone excited yet? I can hear girls beating down the door trying to get in. Basically, I think there's definite similarities. The valve gear on these is really similar to a TU, but I have to confess, I know very little about these. The funniest thing about this engine, because you're looking at this engine thinking, why is it in the middle? Well, the funniest thing is that it's like a Mini. So, bit of a stretch saying that that is like a Mini, isn't it? Well, yeah, it is, because basically this is the same thing you get if you open the bonnet on a Mini or a Metro with an A-series engine in it. The engine is very central, and it's because the clutch is in a casing on the end here, and the transmission is underneath, or sort of behind. It's driven by transfer gears on the end of the engine. That drives the gearbox. That means you get the whine. It's the transfer gears that give you the whine. When you rev these engines up, they don't whine. When you rev an A-series up, it doesn't whine. But when you drive off, it does. It makes that characteristic whine. That's the transfer gears. So the engine and the gearbox share oil. They don't share a crankcase. They do split, but they are open to each other. And yeah, it's just bizarre, really, to see a Citroen like this. Everything is in completely opposite place to what you would think. The oil filter's on the top of the engine. That doesn't normally happen. Well, I suppose it does with modern ones, doesn't it? But then the pressure regulator is there. And the carburetor is smack bang on the top. And the alternator is smack bang on the top. And the water pump is smack bang on the top. And basically everything is accessible. And I'm feeling like a bit of a prick. And the reason I'm feeling like a bit of a prick is because I said in a video a little while ago I did about BX14s, it's the easiest one to have. The TU engine BX14 is the most simple BX you can have, the most simple hydrodynamic Citroen you can have. Well, that looks really easy to work on. And I'm sure there are probably one or two jobs on it that are an arse. Anything gearbox related, I'm going to assume, is probably an arse. And getting parts for these is probably an arse. But, dang, okay, yeah, maybe if you get one of these, any BX14 is easy. There we go. Yeah, that's overwritten that now. Any BX14. Otherwise, if you watch these videos, you will know standard BX fare. It's a bit sad in places, but she's done the rounds, this one. It's been around. And look at this period accessory. It's got the sticker to show the window it would have had if you had studied a little bit harder in school and you could have afforded a model that had the Opera window, the higher spec model. But the 14RE still has electric windows, central lock-in. Wheel trims aren't actually right. It would have those wheel trims, but they would be slightly darker grey and with black bits around there. Shall I stop sending everyone to sleep? Yeah, I'm going to stop sending everyone to sleep. So, run number 1, what do we think? Place your bets. 71 horsepower at 6,000 revs, 78 pound-foot of torque at 3,000-ish, something like that. I should put them on the screen. What do you think? About 150,000 miles, I think it is, maybe 155, something like that. Seems to run quite sweetly, to be honest, but I've never dynoed any PSA car or Talbot or anything like that, or Renault, with that engine in it. This is a first. I've never done this before. XUs, TUs, you name it. I've never done any car with that engine. In fact, I've only ever driven one car with that engine in my life. Not that one. So, yeah, what do we think? I mean, I didn't have fond memories of that one, so I don't know. I don't know what this is going to be like. I've no idea. What do you think? She has got the mother of all wheel wobbles, but oh, that graph looks very good. And there is our graph. 68.3 horsepower at 5,887. 77 pound-foot at 2,474. It is very close to book figures. It might, with another run, it might get there, but that is a seriously happy little engine. I mean, to be honest, I kept my foot in. I think it had tailed off. But it felt like it wanted to keep going. 19.8 power losses, 48.3 at the wheels. I think that'll get to 50 on the next one. My feeling is that this one's going to warm up, and I think can it hit the 71? That's what we want it to do. We want it to hit 71. Come on, Bob, you can do it. Maybe, probably, hopefully. Oh, there's a QR code there. I wonder if that works on the screen. Excellent taste there, it has to be said. Callum, your YouTube name is too long. I can't fit it in the box. That'll do. Well, let's get inside and do another run from the inside. You can see the dials and the funkiness and everything, and we can see what the mileage is in there as well, because I've forgotten. Right, so we have moved inside, well, we are inside Bob, apparently. Everything's called Bob, isn't it, these days? So, yeah, we're inside. No rev counter, no VFD rev counter, not LED, TRSs and things. They have a VFD rev counter. Very posh, very over-engineered for what it is. This doesn't have that because it is Povo, although it is top-level Povo, so we still have electric windows and central lock-in, which is reluctant. So, let's fire up the beast. It's keen. I mean, the back is sinking very quickly. I think it might have a dozer leak. Oh. It's gone a bit squirrely. Maybe I'll have to bump his idle speed back up to an idle speed that is too fast. So, yeah, you've got your PRN. I'm just going to feather the throttle here to warm it a bit. So you've got your PRN switches, indicators. Oh, don't self-cancel. You've got lights. You can flash people, like, you know, if you're in a car park at night. And there's, oh, a pathetic horn. Yeah, and basically, well, that's about it. It's a Mark 1 BX. 157, 349 on the clock. So we see how many of the warning lights work. Oh, we're all down there. That's it. Okay, so none of the other stuff's working. Right, well, let's go for it. Let's see what happens. Now, this thing, I don't know how... I've got my image stabilization turned on. This is going to try and shake my teeth out when we get to high speed. Clutch is also quite savage in this. There's the speeder, look at that. So obviously I've done a Mark 1 BX before. I've had VEP on it. One of the first dyno videos I did was VEP. But I didn't film it in the same kind of format. I don't know if I did an interior shot on that. Right, let's go for fourth. clutch is like a switch. It's just on or off. Right, flat out, second choke. Off she goes. We bogged down a bit at the beginning there. Oh my God. The vibrations are intense. Yet, when you lift off the power, they go. So, Mr. Callum, I think you might have a bent drive shaft or a dodgy CV joint. It's actually quite smooth. Quite a sweet little engine. Graph is looking worse this time. We had that bum fart at the beginning. That's wheel power, that graph. So let's go and have a look and see what it was. Bob, you despicable little slug. Well, you've actually improved 69.8, but what on earth? I mean, this could have been, I couldn't hit, to be honest with you, I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't even see anything because of the vibration. My eyes can't see in that frequency. That might be the suspension pump cutting in. I think it probably was, because the rest of the graph is actually about what it was. So, yeah, that was the suspension pump, I'm going to say. So we improved at the wheels, but then we unimproved at the power losses, the coast down, because the transmission oil, well, the transmission oil should warm up pretty quick if it's shared with the engine oil, shouldn't it? Obviously, the thinner the oil is going to be, the less losses we're going to have, because there's less drag. But we will also get more power, because there's less resistance, in theory. Who knows? But otherwise, the figures are pretty much what they were before. If we excuse the, which is what that is. It's pretty decent, isn't it? I don't think it's going to hit the 71. We'll give it one more from the back. You can hear the fart box at the back. See what that sounds like. I think that bumper might be hanging off. Well, there we go. Run 3 was the best one so far. I hung on, and I probably got a bit carried away. Yeah, I just kept my foot in just in case. But 69.8, which is exactly what it did on the last one. 5883, which is nearly what it did on the last one, I think. And this is ever so slightly better. So the wheel power is increasing, but as a result, the power losses are decreasing because the oil is getting thicker, as I say. So although one is going up, the other's coming down, and they kind of balance each other out. But she's happy. That's a healthy machine. So there we go. If you want to see more adventures with Bob, the BX, and on the channel Grey, the Frog Eyes Sprite, Sycamore cat thing, go and check it out. Go and check out the channel. Healthy machine. The idle is not quite right. I think we need to, well, not we, I'm going to go home. And thanks for watching the another vs.dyno video, and I'm sure there'll be, do you know what I haven't done yet? I haven't done a GTI 8 valve. It has to be a manual. A GTI 8 valve. I've done 16 valve, 1.6, 1.4 TU, 1.4 X series, 1.9 diesel you've seen recently, and a TZD turbo. So I haven't done a 1.8 diesel NA, but is there really any point? And I haven't done a GTI 8 valve. So if you don't like BX videos, then well, you'll have to cope, I suppose.